Hi guys, welcome back to the Regal Gentleman YouTube channel. We are doing our transformation series and we've got Amit in the chair. So how are you today, bud?
Yeah, I'm good.
You alright?
Yeah.
So what's the plan?
So the plan is to get rid of this mess.
Okay, yeah.
It gets like, right now it's a bit wet.
Okay.
So it's like flat, but
Yeah.
when it's dry, it's like super curly.
Okay, no worries, yeah. So what are you looking to do?
So just to kind of shorten it, to get like a inch and a bit on the top.
Okay. And what's
I've got like a photo as well.
Yeah, of course, yeah, shows that, yeah, definitely. Right. That isn't going to work.
No?
No, because you've got curly hair and he's got straight hair.
Yeah. What do you recommend?
I mean, all depends on the upkeep. Okay, so you could blow dry your hair straight, you could use straighteners to get that effect. Whether you want to spend that much time in the morning creating that, when you find a haircut that you like, you've got to try and find something that suits your hair type, because that would work for me. Yeah. But obviously my hair and your hair are two completely different textures. Yeah. So to create the same kind of texture and look in that is really hard day to day. Because if I could straighten it out, blow dry it out, cut it that way, but then when you come to stand, if you don't do the same kind of base and process that I've done, it won't give the same effect. Yeah. If you want to kind of try and achieve that kind of short front, kind of messy look, you'd have to probably go fairly short on your hair. That is the only downside. So, I mean, I would try and achieve, I think you could probably achieve something with a bit more loose bend in it, more than it being too straight in that texture. So again, you can probably try and achieve a similar thing with a longer front. What length on the sides and the back are you looking to go to?
So not too much scalp showing.
Okay.
Like a grade 1, and then to blend in with the beard really.
Okay, yeah, you want to keep it low down to a low 1, yeah? Okay. I think it would, you'd have to work it really, quite low though, again, just like maybe just towards, maybe more like a temple fade in a sense, you know, like where it fades down just into the beard, and then maybe just above the ear, and you can obviously go tighter on the neck, that's fine, because you want to still build up some weight through here, but it will be different to that picture. If we take out the elements of, or if we bring in the elements of that haircut, it's essentially short around the back and sides, you want to go down to a low 1, so I've got to try and work that out in my head of where we're going to leave the weight, so we'll find out the balance of the round of the head with the comb in a minute and stuff once it's all washed so we can see it, and then with the top, once it's wet, we'll be able to see it a little bit as well, where it does bend a lot more as well, because when it's wet, it obviously has a little bit of elasticity in there, so it looks a bit longer, but what it does, it breaks down the curl a bit as well. So you start to see where the strongest point of the curl is when it's wet, where it starts to really fight against the water. So I think we look at that, and I think that's the beauty of giving the shampoo and conditioning, we can see that as well. So if you're happy with going with my suggestion, like kind of what I think works as we start to wash it and stuff, I think that'll be a good one. But again, essentially something that you've been looking for, a bit higher at the front, a bit messy through the back. So I think the texturizing might be slightly different, but if we can try and achieve something similar, that'll be handy. Yeah, all right then, buddy. Let's give it a washing condition, and then we'll get started, man. Yeah. Right, guys, so I've just shampooed and conditioned Amit's hair. Now, as you can really see, the texture of his hair is very curly, as you can see. Now, the image that he showed me was a guy with basically the same kind of hair as me, okay? So, again, very different texture, but it doesn't mean to say we can't create something very similar to that, just based around the texture of the hair we've got in the chair. So, my initial thinking is we start on the back and sides. We horseshoe the top, so we can separate the top to the back and sides. Again, with Amit's face shape, the style that he wants, and my only concern is, to create that very straighter texture, we have to go a lot shorter. Again, it's easy to blow dry, it's easy, just when he wakes up in the morning, we take away a lot of that kind of curl, the heavy curl through it. The only concern there is that obviously the shorter we go, it won't really work for Amit's face shape. So I think by separating the back and sides off, using the horseshoe section, allows me to dictate and also see exactly where the face shape is and what the face shape is like, and also the blending point. Now, if you can see that in the mirror, Liam, that is where we need to start building up. So that's what will create leanness, okay? If we were to go over, it would bring out his cheekbones and make it more round and more oval as his face shape, which we want to keep more of a leaner finish. So as you can see, you pull that away, and that's it. My first thought was, I don't know if this is going to work. But I didn't want to be negative. I didn't want to kind of not fill the client with confidence or think that he can't walk out with something that will work for him today. But in my mind, I was thinking, we're gonna have to. He wants to go down to number 1, but we've got to keep squaring this in it, and we've got to. And I was thinking, it isn't going to work. But I was thinking, how can I make it work? So doing these kind of assessments throughout, like, or before you start the haircut, allows you to see, actually, it's not as bad as I thought it'd be. I think I want to work all right, to be fair. You know, any haircut can be done. You have to use it. No, not at all. No, we've found out that it won't. I mean, that it'll work. Sorry, we've discovered that. Now I'm going to start by drying the back and sides off, because again, dry hair and wet hair is very different, especially with someone who's got curly hair. I'm just going to dry the sides first. There we go. That's dry enough. I'm going to start on this with a I'm going to do a 3.5, okay? Because then that gives me enough, so it's long enough that I can start to really blend out and leave a bit more length through here as well. If I went in straight with a 2, you can still obviously blend it out, but you start to sacrifice how high you go as well. So I always start on a higher grade if I'm working down something really low. I'm going to go straight in with a 3.5, and I'm going to stop here, okay? So then that way I've got room to blend up to here as well. And I'm starting to work it a bit lower down. So I want to try and maintain some length through the temple. So you can see, setting straight, and then just slightly dips to the back. Again, we're looking to try and maintain a bit more weight through here. Straight up and off. I'm just working across the comb now with this. Just have to remove that bulk. Now all I'm going to do now is work through the guards and work down to a 1. So 2 guard on, lever down, and work it up and off to where the 3 was. You didn't want to have too much scalp showing. That was one of your requests, wasn't it? You didn't want to see too much scalp. Now I think that is enough scalp exposure, personally. I know the lighting in here is different to maybe a natural outside, but I can see a bit of scalp coming through there already. I don't know if you can see the same on the camera. So if I took that to a 1, and I went to a 1 about here, that would be a lot of scalp exposure. So again, working down in the blending, taking into everything down it's asked for, like, doesn't want to see too much scalp. You want to go down to a 1, but doesn't want to see too much scalp. By blending down like this from a higher grade down, you start to see it change as well. So I wouldn't necessarily, I'm glad I did this, because if I'd have put a 1 in and tried to blend out from the 1, I would have actually probably shown a lot more scalp than you might want. I want him to feel as confident as he possibly can, and if scalp exposure makes him feel a bit self-conscious, I've ruined it, haven't I? So that's my 2.5 done. Now I'm going to work down the lever to my 2. I'm just using the corner now to work around. Again, we're going to have a very shallow blend through the sides here. There we go. I'm going to work my 1.5. I'm going to pull up and off and use the dip at the occipital bone as my blending off point as well, okay? There we go. I'm going to move down to my 1 now and just go a little bit lower down. Take the 1 guard off, use the 0.5 and just work up into the hairline, the very bottom of the hairline. Again, we're not looking to try and show too much scalp exposure, so I don't want to do a very, very high taper, because that will, from a distance, give an effect that it's a very shorter haircut than what it actually is. Back onto my 1 guard. Teeth in first, so it doesn't go as short, and then start to flatten the guard against to get a bit more of a natural graduation. So down to the 1. Just work through the lever so I get to 1. Just give a nice seamless transition into there as well. So now working around the ear, following the growth pattern as well, which seems to grow around. Slide the comb in, pull it out, keep as much length in there as I can, so that I can still blend down. So a lot of height in this, so a lot of elevation. Let that hair layer on top of each other. And just copy from the left hand side, there's my guide. Take that off, so you can see lift it up. So I'm going to move on to the outlining now. I'm going to use this just to taper in the temples. As you can see, when you do that first cut, it really exposes like his natural shape that goes down like that. So I want to follow that. And then that way you can really just start to strengthen up the hairline without sort of compromising going too far into the hairline. So, you know, a couple of days later he's got stubble, which again you don't want. And I'll pull this down. So as you can see, his hair grows really close to his ear. So I don't want to do a big loop up here somewhere. I want to try and keep it as low down, but so it looks neat. So just a little bit above the ear. I want to just create a nice natural loop almost. Right down. Show off his hairline. So a little bit of scissor over comb now, just to strengthen that blend. Goes out a little bit shorter. I'm looking at a length that I still want to be able to create the same kind of look that he requested. So if you think back again, do as I'm doing now, think back to that picture, okay? I'm going to bring it from the back and way to the front, because essentially I want to create that short at the back, long towards the front. So I reckon, well, something that's still going to have length in it for him, but something that isn't going to compromise the shape neither. So I reckon if we lost that, that'd be nice towards the back, and that way we've got that as our base, so that's still got a little bit of length in there. Maybe, what's that, about an inch, maybe a little bit, maybe a bit longer than an inch and a half maybe, and then obviously we can get a bit longer towards the front. So I think that's a good length, if you don't mind that, Emmett?
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. Now, I'm gonna work this in uniform, so I'm gonna cut this straight across. Again, it's got that bit of curl in there, but I'm gonna cut it blunt to start with. I'm just going straight up until I get to this part here, and I'll start pulling it back a bit. Straight up, in the air, slightly pulling it back. And back, there's my guide. There's my guide that I'm following to, okay? Slightly over direction to maintain my length at the front. As you can see, taking that length off now, we've took a lot of that curl out of it as well. It's a lot flatter compared to the other side. That's why it's always great, guys. Please don't feel embarrassed to bring pictures in, because it helps us out so much. There's the guide there. I'll put that in. Cut that through, so we're keeping that length through the front. And work around to the left-hand side. So there wasn't much movement going on, no.
I mean, I did attempt like a side part kind of thing.
I was going to say that, it does look like it was a side part, yeah. As you can see, there's quite a lot of length coming through there, but that's what I was trying to work out before, was that it was like slightly side parted last time. So that's why this side looks as though it's got a bit more length in it. Just a little bit off this bit now. There we go. And my guide from the other side as well. Just connect that in there. And just trim the edges. And yeah, just the very edges like that. That side as well. There we go. Now what we'll do, cut the crown in now. Use our guide from that side. Cut through, we don't have a guide from the top because we haven't got the crown yet. There we go. Angle my fingers over, still maintaining weight. So pulling it from the crown, so there's more length through there we can leave and match up in a minute. And obviously it's connecting at this point here, so everything underneath is shorter. It's getting longer by the crown there as well. Pull this out and there'll be a longer section there that we haven't cut from the top. Okay, and we've got a guide underneath it, as you can see through my fingers. There we go, a little bit off. There's over the point. One last section right above the crown, be a tiny little point. That'll be enough to take off. I'm just going to cross check through it to make sure everything is sitting right. Perfect. Right, I'm going to dry this off now and I'm going to start texturizing it, okay? Before we start, I'm going to pop a little bit of hair oil in this. This is an argan oil. Now the reason being is that it does feel quite dry, and I don't know if you noticed, but at certain points, especially towards the crown, I was getting a little bit of drag and a little bit of kind of snagging on the comb. His hair was feeling quite dry, and again, it's old hair if you remember, so I want to try and make the best of it. So this is a hair oil. It's argan based. It adds that condition back. It makes your hair feel super soft. High speed, high heat for now. And just wrap this around the brush just to dry it forward. work it down from the middle to the front just to help layer that fringe. Now this is a really prime example of texture with curly hair when we haven't texturized it in the slightest. I mean, you've got a super square finish to that. There's loads of movement, loads of texture, and all we did was uniform in the right, and we cut the sections in the right place. And what you've created is that. That's only got a bit of oil and just to dry it off, but look at the movement in that. That literally has got no styling product aid at all. And oil isn't an aid to styling, it's more of a conditioning than anything else. So imagine when we put that texture in now, it's gonna pop even more. And that's the good thing about it. When you work with curly hair and you work with the natural way it wants to fall, and obviously you get the sections right, you create the primary shape we've got now. So it looks pretty awesome, but I'm gonna add a little bit of texture to this now, just to thin it out slightly as well, okay? So I'm just gonna take bits when I feel it, so that feels a little bit thicker this side. So I'm gonna take it from the back where it feels thick. I'm just gonna work and point cut deep into this as well to break it up. So I'm working to my fingers. Cut into that top bit there, the blend, where we left the weight. The longer front, the messy to the back. But I think this is a good length. It's not too short, it's not too long. It's just enough to help them add texture. And as you see, when I blow dried it, I didn't do anything extravagant. I didn't kind of use my section clips and really blow dry this through. I just use a round brush and just blow dry left to right and then up at the front. Again, just using the scissor and just cutting into bits. I'm not cutting the ends. The ends are staying nice and straight, that curl. I'm cutting the interior of the hair. Again, just to thin that hair out and just to break up that curl so it falls on itself a bit more. I'm happy with that thickness. Is that length looking alright for you, bud?
Yeah, no, nice.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So we've changed that look completely. You know, you've got such wicked hair with curl in there. Like, you know, you can create a lot of different looks out of having that curly hair. You know, it doesn't just have to be curls. It can be, put a bit of heat to it, break that curl down, make it a bit straighter. I just think you've got options now, more than what you had when you came in, I mean, February, you know. Right, to finish, I'm going to use some matte clay, I think. I think dry for you is perfect because it really brings out that texture. So I'm going to use the Regal Gentleman matte clay, and I'm just going to use roughly about a pea size amount, okay? Don't need a lot. Again, we've cut so heavily into this texture-wise. You've seen it styled now without anything in it, so you just need to add a little bit more just to enhance it, okay? So what a good haircut should do is you just create everything and then you enhance it with a bit of product as well. So working it through. Hands all nice and warm now. I'm just working from the back to the front, just working it in. So I've got working like a shampoo into the hair to really break it in. We're not styling the hair now, we're just rubbing the product in, okay? And just work on that crown, just breaking it up a little bit, just to create that shape. And then that is basically what you asked for, just against your hair really. So with following what your hair texture is like. Happy with that, mate? Does that look all right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Great, yeah.
Awesome, I'll show you the back and sides as well, mate. So that's gone down to a 1, quite low. Yep. But then it obviously all works up into that shape at the top. So you see the length being shorter here and getting longer to the front.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Looks nice, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So to recap what we did, Amit wanted a style that didn't really work for his hair. Okay, he showed me a picture of someone with more like my hair texture, quite straight, but wasn't to say we couldn't achieve something just for his hair texture as well. Like I said to him at the start, it's going to be a bit more curly though, okay? Because to go straight, he'd have to go really short. I just didn't think it would work for his face shape, and he wanted a 1 back and sides as well. So went down to the low 1, edged it up, and then through the top we worked from the back to the front, slight over directing at the front, obviously working from what we said on the comb, bringing it back slightly to create more of a level finish. And then we styled it with some Regal Gentleman matte clay. Again, very lightly, but you know, just enough to bring the hair, the style out a bit more and make it pop a bit more. And that was essentially it. Happy, yeah?
Yeah, very happy.
Thank you very much, man.